This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about tax challenges business owners are facing as the new Trump 2024 administration comes into play. This is going to be an exciting 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
In studio with us today is Alberto Cohen, a CPA with over 33 years of experience. Alberto, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm very excited to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I listen to it all the time. Interesting. You guys have very interesting business owners here all the time, so I'm glad to be part of it.
I'm so excited that you said that.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just feel good, Howie?
It feels good, especially since we're in 2025. And I know you said in the intro, the 2024 administration, because he got elected in 24.
Yeah.
And 2025. But no, it's a big deal. And we do have a lot of people listening to the show, as evidenced by the Let's Talk Business podcast mega mixer that we do every 3 to 4 months. And then we have 250 to 300 entrepreneurs show up. These are people who listen to the show or have been on the show and come and network in person.
Yeah, we're actually going to promo that here in just a minute. Now, I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the CEO of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents and attorneys. If you're curious about the most common tasks that VAs are doing for their businesses, head over to our website at krukus.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses just like yours. Link is in the podcast description.
And I'm Howie Nestel, the owner of Sharkmatic Advertising. And while we don't have virtual people working for us, I do have a staff of marketing experts right here in San Antonio who help clients build websites, do search engine optimization, set up their social media, and get their brand promise delivered to their ideal audience effectively and economically. As a result, our clients tend to be more successful than their competitors. You want to know more? Go to sharkmatic.com.
And you got a great team over there, Howie. Great people. They work hard. They work long hours. They make sure the job gets done. So awesome team.
Fantastic. And I'm Emad Guirguis, owner of SimpliBookkeeping, where we help small business owners understand their finances on a monthly basis. We do that so that they're prepared through the year, help them make sure they're on top of their goals, and make sure that they're prepared and never in the dark. So Emad with SimpliBookkeeping.
Quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. Now, speaking of mixers, the Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer is coming up here in San Antonio on March 27th from 5:30 to 8:30. We did extend it by an hour because we were just it was going an extra hour anyway.
People don't want to leave.
Yeah, people don't want to leave. We have such a good time. Tickets are now on sale for just $20. Now, this is a huge expo-style mixer with lots of networking. We found that combination works extremely well for mixers, is to have these vendor booths set up, and then people come in, the conversations get going, and then business gets done and connections get made. So a lot of vendor tables where you can chat it up with local businesses and take advantage of some great deals. We're going to have snacks, and we're going to have plenty of alcohol at these things, because that's the social lubricant that everybody's looking for when we're mixing up in the business atmosphere. As always, the net proceeds from the event will be going to support multiple local charities here in the San Antonio area. I think, Howie, you're involved in all three of them. So we got Discovery Camps, got CRIT, and of course we got Got You Covered, which supports the San Antonio Food Bank. And what are the other two?
Haven for Hope and Battered Women and Children's Shelter. Those three.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely recommend that you guys, if you're going to come, March 27th, get your tickets now over at satalkradio.com, and that's going to be for the Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer. This will be our fourth one that we've done, and we've grown every single time we've done them. We're expecting about 300 people at this one.
Yeah. And if you don't buy your ticket, here are the two things that can happen. Number one, it does get sold out, and then we shut down ticket sales. The other thing that happens is that even if we don't sell out, leading up to the event, we'll raise the ticket price. So money still goes to a nonprofit. However, you have to pay more. So there's no downside to buying your ticket. We also encourage you to buy two. Buy one for somebody that you'd like to bring, somebody who maybe needs some help networking. And one of the things that the podcast hosts do is we'll take you around and introduce you to people who are potentially your ideal audience. So we'll interview you. Sometimes we do video interviews of you, and then you have content for your social media. I mean, it's a win-win. There is no other networking mixer in San Antonio who does so much for the attendees.
Yeah, we do. We have red carpet interviews, and then we also have professional photography running around taking pictures. So the idea is, why not have content while you're networking with other folks and expanding?
And I imagine you have a limited number of businesses that can get a table.
Yes, we do. Yeah, and it sells out every time.
Yeah.
We've increased the number, but yeah, and Emad's had a table there before.
Yeah, that's how I met Emad, and we connected because he had a table on the last one.
Yeah.
And so that's great.
So you're saying it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to get a table, all you got to do is just let me know. I think we still have, I don't know, 7 or 8 gold sponsors available. It's $500 to be a gold sponsor. You get, of course, you get your stuff on all of the material going out. You get shout out on the show, of course, and then you get a first come preferential whatever front of the line for the red carpet interviews.
Oh, okay.
We've got Indigo Film, their professional videography company. They're doing the interviews with the hosts who will be interviewing.
And then they'll send you a link to your video. You can download it, put it on your social media.
Awesome.
Content.
I think I'd like to
Always
do that.
fight.
Yeah, fantastic for business owners too. If you've been following the show for a while, great event to be able to connect with new folks.
Yeah, you can come mix it up with the hosts of the show. Everybody who's a host on this show is well connected. They're professionals. They're people that you can count on to do good by their work. So good group of folks. I love the circle of friends I've created since I started this show is phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. So speaking of the event, I'm going to do a quick sponsor shout out to Adam Martinez and his team over at To the Moon Moving for being a platinum sponsor for the upcoming Let's Talk Business Make a Mixer on March 27th. Servicing the New Braunfels and San Antonio areas, To the Moon Moving specializes in residential and commercial moves, estates, and storage units, and their number one goal is to help you relocate with peace of mind. If you're planning a move and need reliable professional assistance, choose To the Moon Moving, where they have a 5-star Google review rating with over 200, I think it's like 236 reviews. So give Adam and his team a call at 210-549-7230 or visit them online at tothemoonmoving.com. Good friends of mine too, and Howie, they've done work around you too as well.
They have. They did one move for me, and they're clients of mine. We did their website, we did their SEO. They're great company. I mean, and white glove service, but without the white glove price. They care. They get it.
Is that their slogan?
No, it's not. I just
you
made
should
that
definitely
up.
sell that to them, right?
Okay.
I like that.
Let me charge them for that.
Always
Plus I got to charge
thinking.
them a 1-hour consultation fee that they didn't know about.
All right. So, Alberto, love having you on the show. Of course,
Thank you.
So, do you and Howie know each other? Is there history here?
Yeah.
Yes, we've known each other for quite a few years.
We met at a men's retreat at a camp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, up in Wimberley. And then we started talking. Both have Latin backgrounds. He has an accent. I have less of an accent. We both ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
And so we hit it off. We became friends, done business together.
Yeah.
And
Just
you
a
know
good-
Kirby Caden too, right? Is
Yes,
that
I
right?
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kirby.
he does.
I met Kirby, through Howie and through the same men retreat, and eventually he became a business coach of mine. He coached my business he coached me with my business for a couple of years, a few years back, and so we have.
How is he as a coach, Kirby?
He's great. He holds you accountable. He's very easy to work with. Great professional. Yeah, so we had a great
Oh my God, I have
experience.
the complete opposite experience when he
Well,
coached
before we
me.
get to that, though, I mean, but
Oh yeah.
did you get the results you're looking for from his coaching?
Yeah. Yes. I was having problems with mostly the HR. I was not as experienced in my business with hiring employees and retaining them, and so he helped me kind of identify red flags when it came to hiring, and he helped me hire a couple of people who ended up working out. So yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about his coaching.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Howie, you're not coachable, so it's not
He
even
focuses
fair.
big
Yeah,
on
it's a-
sales, though. He's a big
Yes.
sales. He helps you grow your sales. So that's really his expertise. But he helped me with that particular area that I needed help with.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people. I really like Kirby. I miss
Early
him.
in the early days, he would offer sales coaching because he was a sales manager for Univision, for Univision Radio, and he helped grow. He took that station from worst to first in this market when he moved down here from Chicago. Then he added personnel, which is what sounds like he helped you with, and then marketing. So those were the 3 categories. So when he coached us, or me, or tried to coach me, I don't know. He's definitely very good at what he does. But you have to have a good student if you're going to have a master teach you a lesson. And I think my mindset wasn't there yet. The other thing is, and we'll talk about this when we talk about numbers, because I've done work with both of you. I'm not a numbers person and I'm not a coachable person. And so the question is then asked, why are you in business, man? But back to Kirby, he got to the point where he would actually yell at me in front of my staff. And then one day he walked out. And we're still great friends. We play pickleball together. He's actually going to fly in from Chicago. He's coming in for some meetings, and he's going to stay at my house. So it'll be interesting.
Who wins at pickleball between you guys?
I whip his ass. I mean, I have.
Is that true?
It's true.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I know
Because I've heard
He's
quite
highly
good.
competitive.
Yeah.
He's highly competitive, but if you're going to put money down, put it on me.
Do you take advantage of his height? Is that how you win?
You know what? I'll take advantage of any deficiency that anybody might have.
Also, it's a deficiency.
But for him, I was going to know. You didn't let me finish. For him, it's an advantage because he's closer to the ball right after it bounces. And so he can actually get it back over. For me, my height is a deficiency. But no, I don't try to hit over him or anything. But he's very aggressive.
I mean, I played pickleball with him. He's pretty competitive.
Yeah,
he's pretty good. He has a tennis
right?
background.
Yeah.
So he has a hell of a forehand and back.
Yeah, but he hits too hard. So half the time I just let it go out, and then he's mad. Why didn't you hit that? Like, because it went out. It was going out. I knew it was going out. Yeah. So I played pickleball against this guy, too, across from me.
Are you any good?
Pretty all right.
He thought he was a
he's
lot
cocky.
better than he was until the first day we played.
Oh.
And then I didn't even charge you for
guys gotta
lessons.
invite me.
He did pay for the court.
Playing against me, if I do say so, would be like playing against a 3-year-old probably. It's probably not going to be very competitive, right?
So Charlie Watts, actually, with all my
Yeah.
trash talking, he was like, "Hey, I heard you're a good pickleball player. I'd like to play with you." So I destroyed him. He was so demoralized. I don't think he ever played again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
I
he
did that to a
took
couple
up
of
sailing
boys.
after
I
that.
think
did that to a
how
couple
he's setting
policemen.
it. He's setting the standard like way up there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. For me, it's like I just go right into prison rules pickleball, man.
Prison
Just,
rules.
I don't know.
All right, let's get back to this. Is a lot of fun, though. I like having a good time on the show. Alberto, so obviously you're very experienced when it comes to the CPO realm. Give me a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
Obviously, 33 years, a long time, but maybe 90 seconds of your background and how you ended up where you're at now.
Sure. Yeah, so I went to business school, and because it was really all part of my background, all my family, brothers, uncles are all entrepreneurs back in Venezuela. So for me, it was natural to jump into the business world, and I took some accounting classes. I loved it. I was very naturally good at it, and so I took that path. Even during school, I took an internship with Deloitte, and they put me in the tax department, and I really enjoyed it. It was super challenging, very fast-paced, and so they offered me a full-time job, and so when I graduated, I went to work with them. And so for the first 16 years, I worked for prominent CPA firms, kind of building my career. I got a master's degree in tax as well, paid by one of those firms.
When did you get your CPA license or certification?
Back in the early 90s, 93, 94.
So was it during your job? Was it out of college?
Yes, it was. So after Deloitte, I went to work for a prominent CPA firm in the Boston area. At that time, I was living in Boston, and I stayed with them for 10 years or so. And they wanted me to pursue my master's in tax because I was working in the tax department. And then they obviously wanted me to become certified. So it's something that I wanted, but also it was kind of a requirement that they put on. So I became a CPA, got my master's degree, and then eventually I moved to Texas. And at that time, I had acquired enough experience that I wanted to go on my own, but I was moving to a new community and didn't know anybody. So I went to work for a CPA firm downtown for a couple of years, kind of to get my feet wet in the community. And then during those 2 years, I worked to get my plan in place to open my own practice. And so that was 16 years ago. And open my own firm, and I have grown it. We're to the point where, I have 500 plus clients. We won a plaque of the best CPA firm in Austin by the American Statesman in 2019. And that was
nice.
So we were very proud of that award. So that meant that we're doing something right in the community. So our competitive advantages are twofold. One is we bring the same amount of experience, expertise as a big CPA firm, but because we have a lower overhead, we provide those services at a more competitive pricing. And then secondly is we are a pretty flat organization. We're still a small boutique CPA firm where right now we're a team of 5 people. And because we're a pretty flat organization, we can provide very attentive, responsive, customized service to our clients. And that's really what they like.
Explain a flat organization, because I think we have a lot of young entrepreneurs that have not had employees, are not familiar with the hierarchy of bigger companies. And so when you say a flat organization and being an advantage, what's a flat organization?
Well, meaning we don't have layers and layers of staffing and supervisor and managers and partners that you will find at a traditional larger CPA firm downtown. And so what happens in that arena, because I used to work for those firms, is a lot of times a client might be assigned to a staff that they don't know anything about that client. And that staff has to respond or be responsible to a supervisor who might still not know much about that client. Mm-hmm. The person who knows more about the client is either a manager or a partner. And so what happens is that client kind of get a very disconnected kind of service at a higher fee. And so a lot of times they migrate to firms like ours because they want somebody who's, when they call, they're going to know about their business and they're going to address their questions and concerns and stuff. And so half the time they call, I answer the phone. And so I become very reachable to those clients.
Yeah. So the advantages are then you get to speak to somebody who knows about your account.
Yes.
Usually a more experienced person.
Yeah.
You're getting it at a reduced fee compared to these big companies.
Yes.
And then, I would say really another advantage is that there's continuity of staff, and you're not sending this work downhill to a junior person who may only be with a company for 6 months or a year.
Yes. And the other advantage of a flat organization is we all have the mindset of doing everything and anything that needs to be done to make the client happy. And so we all roll up our sleeves and do anything that needs to be done to service the client. Whether it's something as insignificant as scanning or, writing a letter or sending an email or whatever, we all do it. I kind of train my staff to do that. And so they might not need permission from a supervisor or a manager. Hey, can I contact the client to do this? It just makes it a more efficient process.
What's your ideal client profile? What kind of clients are you bringing in?
Business owners for sure. Small business owners, and we define a small business anywhere between 20 million or less in gross receipts, less than 30 employees for sure. So that's kind of our bread and butter. Most of the time, when we get a small business client like that, they haven't been serviced well. There are areas where they have been underserviced, and so I would say 98% of the time we can provide some kind of benefit right off the bat.
I think I don't understand how you can be readily available for 500 clients. If they call, you're answering the phone, and you know all of those cases. It reminds me of that Aaron Brockovich or whatever show where he's like, you know what I mean? Where she's asked a question about a client, and she's like, well, what phone number do you want? You know what I mean? And she knew it all, right? As far as that. But how do you keep, I mean, how do you service all of those?
We're very efficient. We're very efficient. And to be honest, because we're a small practice, all our clients are there because of me. They have that relationship with me. And so if I didn't know them or they didn't know me or they didn't, if they didn't have that exposure with me, they wouldn't be there most likely.
How do you expand then? Because I know you're in expansion mode, correct? I mean, you're looking to acquire other CPA firms and stuff like that.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Have a good team. Definitely talent and bringing a good team that will have that same mentality and the same mindset will definitely help.
So this team of other CPAs as well? Okay.
Yeah,
do you have any other CPAs working with you now?
Yes. I have one more CPA and two accountants and a bookkeeper.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you're looking to add more to your team?
Yes, we're slowly expanding. Yes, so by the end of this year, probably would like to bring one more. Ideally, another CPA or somebody who is working towards getting their CPA certification.
And will they all be in the same office in Austin? Because I know you've picked up and have grown in San Antonio.
So
what's the idea
we
there?
have been contemplating opening a satellite office in San Antonio, but we still have to decide whether we're going to do that or not. The advantage of nowadays is because of technology, everything can be done remotely. So I would like to continue to market our services in San Antonio, but I don't necessarily think we need to have an office exactly there because we can do the work from Austin with no problem. It's just, yeah.
So, Alberto, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
With the business structure that you have now that you've got what you called it a flatline business structure, how have you found that the connection with your clients is helping you with the retention of those clients?
Yeah, because like Howie was saying, is my clients get to know really well the other CPA that I have, and so they develop almost like on the same relationship they have with me, and they don't have to go through layers of different people at different levels. That other CPA get to know those clients really well, so they build a trust level with the clients. They build a rapport with them. They get to know their style, and they know that at the end of the day everything kind of goes through me, but they build a rapport with them almost as the same as mine.
Yeah.
If at the end of the day it goes through you, that locks them into you, creates extra work for you. I know because I've been there.
Yeah.
The downside is if they only have a relationship with your staff and then that staff person leaves, then the tendency is that the client wants to go with them.
Yeah. It is a fine line because you want to develop that staff, you want them to develop professionally and build that trust level with your clients, but the downside is potentially that risk.
Now you bought another CPA firm in Austin, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember that part of the either negotiation on the price of the purchase was partly dependent on how connected those clients were to the founder of that firm and whether or not that person was going to either stay on for a certain amount of time in the transition, because that's what happens in many cases. Let's say you're a financial advisor and you buy a book of business from somebody else or an insurance company. What happens is that you agree on a price based on the value of those clients, but they're not all going to stay. And so you pay out based on those clients staying with you for 6 months, a year, et
so
cetera.
it's very customary that in working a deal like that part of the purchase price is usually upfront, but I know that you leave another portion of the purchase price contingent upon the billings coming in the next probably usually couple of years after that. And then it is also customary that you retain that owner for a period of time, either as an employee or a consultant, to help you with that integration. And so, for me, I was really lucky because that owner contractually he was supposed to stay for a couple of years, but he ended up staying for 7 years. And so, so that really helped with the integration of those clients and the retainage. So yeah, he basically fully retired. He was in his 70s. He fully retired.
And you made him work an extra 7 years?
You allowed him to work. It sounds like he
Well, he wanted it.
Yeah.
Really, he retired because his wife finally convinced him to retire. But he would have stayed on.
And that's one of those things about entrepreneurs is that we define ourselves by what we do. We can't imagine not doing it. So even though it was the right time, if he had worked for a big accounting firm, he might have just retired, got his gold watch, and went on.
Yes.
But because he was an entrepreneur, and because Alberto needed him to stay on for the transition of the clients, and then he didn't want to leave because he's like, wow, I still have value in the marketplace, and I still get to
He
interact
didn't have
with
to do
people.
all the owner stuff, right? 'Cause
Correct.
Alberto was taking care
Exactly.
of it, yeah.
It was a perfect balance for him. He came, he worked, he earned some money, but he didn't have all the responsibility that came along with as an owner. So
That's a great transition.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that, because you just touched on a big point now. In today's day and age, with new accountants graduating from college decreasing, so how are
Yes.
you finding and retaining new employees?
It is probably the biggest challenge that is facing our industry right now. Like, it's a big shortage, especially in the tax area, but not only in the tax area. Yes, over the last 20 years, there have been less and less graduates coming out of colleges with accounting and finance degrees, just because they were not as attractive as other degrees. But so it has created our shortage. So it's a big challenge for us. Because I'm competing with the big firms, the medium-sized firms, and they have a lot more resources, right? The way we approach at it is we try to target the more entrepreneurial candidates that kind of want to see all facets of what it's like to run a CPA practice, right? And they would thrive in a small firm environment. Right? Not everybody is looking for a small firm environment. You know, some candidates look for the big office, the big company environment. So those are not our candidates. But so we focus more on that, and also flexibility. Right? Some flexibility. You know, we try to accommodate more, work and life balance that maybe in a bigger firm.
I
you
think
might not
that's
have.
a huge benefit, by the way, especially, the younger generation is more about what are they getting out of their career, their profession, as opposed to just being a cog in the wheel.
Yes.
So the bigger firms, in my mind, are less attractive from the youth perspective because, they're just going to be a cog in
I'll
the wheel.
tell you what, one of the things my staff talks about, and why 2 of them have been with me for 13 years and a couple have been with me for 5 years, is that they love that flexibility. They can come in at whatever time they want within reason, stay late, whatever, and there's not the same kind of corporate dictation mandates that you have. I have a friend who works for Halliburton in Houston, and one day, CEO said, everybody's coming back to campus. So people were working remotely. They loved it. They had their life and everything. And he's like, hey, we have $800 million in this thing. Everybody's coming back in. If not, you're fired. I'd love to get Emad's perspective on it, because Alberto's answer to, how he overcomes this shortage of accountants. Mm-hmm. You have a successful bookkeeping business that has been growing. And so if you're faced with the same challenge of finding people in finance, people with accounting backgrounds and those kinds of things, how is it that you've been able to grow your practice?
I like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So our structure is relatively similar, to where we also offer that flexibility, but our main rule is deadlines. So we make it very clean and clear. The harder you work, the more you earn. It's kind of that work hard, play hard situation. So how we have it is, If you know you have a deadline coming up and you want to, for example, take a week off, that's perfectly fine. You know when your deadlines are, you know when they're set, they're already pre-made, which is good because in our industry, you know when they're coming up. If before that deadline comes up, your tasks are completed, go ahead, have fun, enjoy your trip, go on vacation for that week, week and a half, whatever you need. But if before that deadline comes, your tasks are not done and you haven't met those deadlines, then it's an automatic, you can't take off. So the expectations are set so that people know what they are, and I think that's what they like. They like to have the knowledge and knowing that they have the flexibility and the power is actually in their hands. And when they know that, then they tend to actually work significantly harder because they know, okay, if this is what I want, this is what I have to do to achieve it.
Yeah.
And it's a relatively short goal for them to plan around, which makes it possible. And that's kind of where that flexibility
But how are
comes
you
in.
finding people to come and work for you? So the flexibility is obviously a feature that they like, that might be a benefit to them. But how are you going out and finding these people to come and work as you're expanding the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're constantly searching for new, good talent. We have our own criteria for how we search and what we're looking for. Of course, we have our company culture. So when we look for somebody, we're looking for someone that's also going to fit in that culture so that we're setting them up for success, right? So Mark talks about this a lot. We do a DISC test as well. And it's really important that you have a person with a configuration in their DISC test to fit a specific role. But when you bring them all together, that's what gets the company to elevate as a whole. So you have to have somebody unique in each characteristic trait to make everything flow smoothly. So that's kind of what we're looking
DISC
for.
assessments, I think people can go look up what that is. But I want to hear from you, not what the culture is at Simply Bookkeeping, but what are some of the elements that go into culture and hiring for culture versus hiring for talent or for a specific skill set?
Absolutely. So it's a pretty extensive interview process. So what we do is it's a 3-step process. The first step, we go through and make sure that the skills and the knowledge in the industry is there. The second test is actually is a kind of like a personality test to see what their values are, what their morale is, how their consistency is. Consistency is very important. In a resume, is someone changing
Jumping,
jobs
yeah.
every 6 months, or they stayed at a job for 5 months, and then the additional is why were they let go. So a lot of those play a factor into the hiring process. The final and last stage is, and this is actually one of my favorites, is that potential new employee gets to be interviewed by our whole team. So what that does is a beneficial aspect from 2 sides. So one, the whole team gets to have a say into whether this person is qualified to be part of the team or not, so that if in the future, something doesn't work out or they're having issues, it's like, okay, well, you were part
The
of
boss
the
can
process.
say, I didn't hire him, you did.
You did, exactly. But the other thing is too, is that new employee or potential new employee, as they're being interviewed from someone, it's not that their interaction is now only with me. It's now with everyone else. So when they come in on the team, they feel more comfortable to be able to communicate with everyone. So now it's a team effort, not a, hey, let's ask Emad every single question there is.
Contributing to culture. I love it.
Exactly.
Sam Walton said in one of his books, the founder of Walmart, 9 most important words in business. People support best that which they help to create. So your staff is going to support that hiring because they participated in the hiring. So
Now, in
Mark,
that first step that you mentioned, do you actually give them a test? Like, do you to see their
Absolutely.
skills, or
Yep.
do you?
Yeah,
okay.
we send out after the interview process. If we think the interview process went well, then we send out what's called a mock test.
Oh, okay.
And the mock test is not straightforward. I actually created it on my own. There's tricks in it. And if you're very knowledgeable in the industry, you'll find what the tricks are. They're not difficult, but at least they'll let us know what level you are on.
And
the
they can
scale.
they do it on their own time.
They do it. They record it, send the video in. We review it. By reviewing their thought process, the answer may be incorrect, but it's really their thought process and how they're working through the questions.
Okay.
Because we can train a lot of it. It's just dependent on what stage we're at and how much we want to train.
Sounds great, man.
You know, I should use you as a consultant for the bookkeepers when I hire.
Yeah,
That'd be a
absolutely.
good idea because
I like
he does.
that.
He has it nailed down. It's pretty impressive. I learned a lot from you on that, by the way.
There's little subtleties, by the way. If you give somebody a test and you say, look, I want you to record it, then send it in. And then after you send it in, send an email to staffing@simplybookkeeping.com. And if they don't follow those instructions, the test is not necessarily what they wrote down. The test also is, did you follow the instructions?
Attention to detail.
To
Absolutely.
be honest,
yeah.
it's a great thing for any small business owners to learn because, you know, you might be great at what you do, right? In my case, I was great at tax work and all that, but when I first opened my business, I had very little experience hiring people and learning the whole HR area. It was really mind blowing. But that's every business owner has to learn different facets.
Yeah,
And they might not know.
or hire an expert that knows it, and a lot the entrepreneurial mindset is, oh, I could figure this out, and then you want to do it yourself, and then you realize that you don't, and then here it is.
How you love fun phrases. What do they say? They say if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
Yeah, it's an old African proverb.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of business owners kind of in line with tax and accounting. A lot of business owners think they can do it themselves, and so.
Well, I bet you they come to you and they're like, "Hey, well, I don't know. I took all these deductions, and now all of a sudden the IRS is coming after me or whatever." And you're like, "Well, who told you to do that?" Well, I just figured I didn't have
accounting
to.
is typical, right? They think they can do their books and they butcher their books, or the worst case is they keep it in the back burner and they never do it. And so everything falls behind, and they are operating their business kind of blindly.
No, I had a client that spent more than $100,000 on his business credit card for personal expenses, and then he got in trouble for it. And he's like, "Well, I didn't know. I thought as a business
That's a good
owner."
defense, by the way. I didn't know.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know. Okay, dismissed.
So there is a classic Tostitos chips and salsa commercial that has to do with accounting, IRS. I don't know if we've talked about it or you ever saw it. I don't know when it's from. Call it 20 years ago.
Probably a
Look
Super
it on
Bowl
YouTube.
commercial.
So they show up to this, fictitious IRS office, and they're 30 desks and 30 business owners talking to the IRS agents, and they zoom in on this one guy, and he's got this big bag, this grocery bag, but the paper bags, the brown paper bags.
Yeah.
And so the IRS agent says to the business owner, he goes, "Okay, so let me get this straight. You're claiming $35,000 worth of expenses, and you had $35,000 in revenue, and so you say that you don't owe any taxes?" And he goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Do you have any evidence to prove that? Do you have any receipts?" And he goes, "No, I don't." And he goes, "So then what do you have in the bag?" And he goes, "Oh, I have Tostitos, chips, and salsa." And the IRS agent says, "I smell refund." And then the business owner goes, "Really?" And he goes, "No, not really."
But I'll take some of the Tostitos anyway.
That's great.
All right, so let's switch gears here a little bit. So, first off, I'm a huge fan of TikTok, right? Since we're having a good time, let's just talk about this, all right? So, there's this whole thing going around how filing taxes is like unconstitutional.
Oh, no, that's been around for a while.
It's
That was
voluntary.
before TikTok, by the way.
Yeah, but it's voluntary, right? So, what's your answer
Because the
there?
government didn't really set up that way, and the IRS is not
You
a
don't
real
have to
government organization.
file.
Right.
Yeah. So how would you respond to somebody who says, no, that's voluntary? You don't have to file taxes, which seems completely absurd because there's people in prison, right, They get all their stuff
Exactly.
taken.
I mean-
But yet this is
Celebrities.
still a thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So let me just ask you, do you or do you not have to file taxes with the IRS?
You do. If your income is past a certain minimum threshold, then you do, yes. So whether, your political views or constitutional views or this or that, the news is you do have to file your taxes. If you don't, eventually you will hear from the IRS and you will have to eventually catch up to it. So there's just no way around it. Yeah.
We're the only business owner that didn't suffer during COVID.
Yeah.
So you guys are the only business owner that didn't suffer during COVID. Why is that?
Well, the government passed a bunch of laws to, incentives, stimulus packages, right, to keep businesses afloat and all that. Well, a lot of business owners were, lost in terms of, do these apply to me? How do they apply to me? Can you help me? Well, we were super busy helping a bunch of business owners, with all these stimulus packages that came out. The Biden, basically the Biden administration came out with.
I mean, that's a kind of a natural knee-jerk reaction. You want to call your CPA
Exactly.
when things like that happen. There's that form now that the government wants you to fill out that they declared it unconstitutional, that I heard maybe might be back. The business information, BO, business owner information.
Right.
So it was a thing, then it wasn't a thing. Is it back to being a thing?
Right. It is. Every business entity had to file that, before the end of the year, before the end of 2024. Now, that really had nothing to do with taxes or accounting. It was really, it was done by a federal agency. And the bottom line to that was the federal government's trying to get more transparency behind people creating, different kind of entities to hide transactions in money laundering. And so it's really, again, down to the federal government trying to get more transparency as to.
Yeah, but my point is that
behind
the
the
knee-jerk
purpose.
reaction is you want to call your CPA.
Yeah,
And
every
so
single
is
client
that-
contacted us,
Right.
and so we took the position we did not want to be responsible for filing
Okay.
those reports for our clients, but we provide a lot of guidance, and we send emails after emails with links, with a full explanation of what it was about. And actually, I had many of our clients who call us like, okay, I know you're not doing it for me, but I want you to kind of walk me through it. And so we spend a little bit of time walking them through it. And
$75 an hour or whatever it is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
75,
Yeah.
dude. Where are you in 1987, dude? No.
I don't know what the hourly rate for CPA is. What is it?
mine is $350 an hour.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. I should have been a CPA.
Yeah, here.
I don't know why you guys are having recruiting problems in the CPA world. I mean, $350 an hour. I'd go
Good
for
luck passing your CPA exam.
It. Okay, so
you know what
let's
it
talk about
stands for?
tips then.
What?
So
Can't pass
right now,
again.
are tips taxed?
Yes.
And are they taxed at the normal rate? Is it just
Yes,
included as income?
ordinary income. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Trump's talking about, we're going to do away with this. Is that even possible? I guess everything's possible, but
It is possible. I mean, we'll see. Really, again, we're expecting a tax bill with every new administration. We in the tax world expect that they will pass their own tax bill, right? To put their stamp on their tax, and the tax rules, and so we expect that Trump will do that soon after he gets in office. It is very customary for almost every administration to pass a new tax bill relatively soon after they take office.
can he do it?
They put their stamp. Yeah, he can do it. I think it was really more of a political move at that time to try to gain attention. Especially at that time, he was promoting himself in Nevada and all that. And obviously, that's a big state for people in the service industry that earn a lot of tips. So I think it was really a lot of a very political move. It would be interesting if now he has to come through with his word, right? So people expect that he'll do something about it. It will be interesting to see what he defined, like the definition of who qualified and, for how much, is it unlimited tip income or is it for just the first X amount? But right now we don't know. I mean, it's still kind of a political, a way of, talking about Trump and his political move. But we'll see once he passes a tax bill, really
what's in it, right?
We
got to pass it to see what's in it, or is that
somebody
else's philosophy?
In the tax rule, it's all very specific, right? You got to read the detail.
Has the tax code, in your opinion and your experience, gotten easier or harder? I know that for years, maybe decades, there's been talk about simplifying it and how complicated it is. And if you get 100 CPAs to file a return, and I think there's a group that does this, and they file a return for a fictitious person, they get 100 different numbers at the end.
Yes. Yeah, so there's always been talk for many years that the IRS or Congress will simplify the tax code, but actually it's going the opposite way.
Is it? Okay.
It gets more complicated as time goes on.
Why do you think that is?
It's a lot of political maneuvering. Yes, it's just between Democrats and Republicans, it's just they go at it and they want to put their stamp on this, or they want to get back to the other party, and it's really a lot of it is politically driven.
So what about overtime? Not taxing overtime, is that even a thing they can do?
Yeah, I mean they can do it. Do I think it's a good idea? No, I don't think it's a good idea.
Why not? No, I love this. So why is taxing? Or why is not taxing overtime a bad idea?
You start getting people who's like, well, it's not fair. You can see if I don't earn overtime, or if I earn overtime, you just start taking sides and the American worker, right? There always going to be a bunch of people saying, well, that's not fair because I do this and I have to pay taxes and
that's
as
entrepreneurs.
As entrepreneurs, I don't know a single entrepreneur that doesn't work overtime.
Exactly.
We just don't get paid for it.
I mean, salary workers.
Yeah,
they
teachers
work
That's
overtime,
a great point.
but they don't get paid for overtime, right? And so they'll be complaining.
Is it possible to say that my hourly rate is, say, $15 an hour, but my overtime rate is $400 an hour? Is that something you can even do? Because I can see some people angling to do that.
No, is that there are some labor laws that overtime hours are regulated and either have to be time and a half. So you cannot pay any kind of amount for overtime.
Yeah. Also, as a business owner, you can't just take $1 a month salary and then pay yourself at the end whatever's left over. You have to.
It's
pay,
a tip.
No, not tip. Yeah, especially if they're not taxable, right?
Right. So then you start playing. People manipulating stuff like that to pay less taxes.
They're already manipulating.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear someone like, who's the rich dad, poor dad guy, Kiyosaki?
Yeah,
he's like,
Kiyosaki,
you're
right.
stupid if you pay taxes. I mean, that's basically what he's saying.
Trump said the same thing.
Yeah. So it's this whole game they're playing.
Yes.
A flat tax would just be amazing because then everybody just know what they got to pay and they'd be done with it, right?
But that's inherently discriminatory against people who earn less, because it becomes a higher percentage of what they actually make.
Right.
So that's why flat tax, that's why you have to have a progressive tax. The more you make, the higher the percentages that you make,
So the more effective and the more you produce, the more you have to pay in taxes. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that's the way it is. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. But, you do have to ask yourself, if there are people who make and are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, the question becomes, do they really need all that? And do we want to wait until they decide to give some of that away?
Wait, who are we to determine whether if Alberto's making $50 million. Who am I to determine? Well, do you need that much money,
it's-
Alberto?
Because
I mean,
it's,
really, come on.
because it's self-preservation for our society. When a lot of and don't ask me who, but a lot of kingdoms were disappeared because of the income inequality. You keep too many people too poor, and very few people, or the money is concentrated, the wealth is concentrated at the top. Those systems tend to collapse on their own.
So the answer is redistribution of wealth.
Because you don't have enough consumers, you don't have enough people with money to buy the stuff. So I think it'd just be a fun game that every 10 years you redistribute all the money, and then all the rich people can get all the money from the poor people again. It becomes a game, and then every 10 years you redistribute it. But
I don't think there's a perfect system.
You're also talking to a guy who is very philanthropic and serves on boards of many nonprofits.
Right. But I'm also a capitalist, So I do, I say, well, if I'm voting for my self-interest, I want less taxes. But I understand that done right, tax money goes to good causes. And if you tax people with money, now I'll defend the people with money, too much, they're less philanthropic and they're less willing to give away money to nonprofits or to help nonprofits. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what'd you think? I mean, that was a fast hour, right? It goes by super fast.
Yes.
Alberto, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
So my website is albertocpa.com. All our information is there. They can call, email. So our main office is in Austin, but again, we're expanding into San Antonio area.
What's the number up in Austin for your office?
It's 512-501-4003.
Love it. All right. Well, great job. It was a great conversation. We kind of
Thank
went
you
all
guys.
over
Thank
the
you
place.
for having me. Yeah, this was fun.
All right. As we wrap the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website, satalkradio.com. It's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
So what we didn't get to